Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Sivonnia DeBarros.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of What Are You Sporting About? Look, I am Sivonnia DeBarros, protector of athletes, and also the founding attorney of the S.L. DeBarros law firm. Now, at this firm, I represent athletes in business, but also million-dollar brands. Look, I have got to remind you guys, because I'm also the creator of Athletes Making Moves, and we launched the NIL Combine this past July. And there were so many major hitters providing knowledge that will serve you for your life. And especially if you are a student athlete or a parent who's trying to help your student leverage their name, image, and likeness, their own intellectual property assets, you definitely want to have access to the NIL Combined digital portal. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do, or invite you to do. I'm not going to tell you to do anything. I'm going to invite you to go to bit.ly/NIL Combine all access. And that's all caps. If you go there, you're going to get access to all the amazing content and information that we provided our attendees who attended this past July. You will not be sorry. You will not be sorry. So I have a small clip that I want to play for you guys so you can kind of understand what the NIL Combine All Access is about. Hey guys, I'm Sivonnia DeBarros, protector of athletes. And guess what? We have wrapped up the first annual NIL Combine, live and virtual, to educate, support, and motivate athletes. Listen, whether you attended and did sessions or you didn't, guess what? You can still be in the room. You can get all of this amazing information to help you retain more knowledge, shore up your knowledge, and take the proper steps so you can get from point A to point Z. Look, all of us want to be successful, right? We want to create sustainable wealth. We want to make sure that we are building legacies out here with our name, image, and likeness. So you can do that with the NIL Combine All Access Pass. All you got to do is go to bit.ly/NIL Combine all access. Make sure you put that in all caps. bit.ly/all caps NIL Combine all access. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Our experts came, they dropped it, okay? They did their thing, and the knowledge is there. All you have to do is take action. Go ahead, get your all access pass right now. All right. So there you have it. Listen, if you have not subscribed to What Are You Sporting About podcast on any podcasting platform, you are missing out. Make sure you go to your favorite podcast platform right now. Click the button to subscribe so you never miss an episode, okay? Do that for me today. Do not forget. Take action on that. Do that today. So what I want to discuss with you all today is the cost of survival mode. The cost of survival mode. And I think sometimes we don't even recognize that we're operating in survival mode. All right. So one reason why I want to talk about this issue is, there is a current business owner who kind of talked about some traumas that they experienced in their life, and they didn't recognize that that's what it was, right? And then reflecting on it later in life, they're like, whoa, okay, so all of this stuff happened, and I have to deal with this. So I think it's a necessary conversation that should be spoken about more often, that people do not delve into. It's only after you've got to some particular level in your life that you feel like you are comfortable or have the ability to talk about these issues. But it is definitely something that we should be discussing, whether you are an athlete, former athlete, business owner, parent of an athlete, whomever you are. we have to understand what the cost is to living in survival mode. So let me just reintroduce myself. If you are new to me, I'm Sivonnia DeBarros, also known as the Protector of Athletes, the founding and principal attorney of the S.L. DeBarros Law Firm, the attorney to million-dollar brands, including athletes and business. I have been featured in major publications like WGN9, CBS, ABC. I've been quoted in Forbes. I've been featured in Authority Magazine, BuzzFeed, a whole lot of podcasts talking about the thing that I love, my love language, which is the law. I'm always talking about that wherever I am, because that is how I truly serve the people who come into my camp. So that's a little bit about me. In addition to that, you guys kind of already heard my spiel about the NIL Combine. I'm also the creator of Athletes Making Moves, which is the brand that owns the NIL Combine. So I'm going to remind you again, if you have not, make sure you go and tap into the All Access Pass, because it is absolute gold that is in there. So if you are watching me live, thank you for being here. Why don't you drop a note and let me know where you are watching from. If you're catching this on the replay, then let me know that you are catching this on the replay, and please share also where you're catching this at. If you are listening to this at a later time, thank you so much for tuning in. Your loyalty to this brand is important to me. And so I love to know that people are getting value out of what is being shared on this platform, whether it comes from me or it comes from another guest. All right. So like I said, today, I am going to discuss with you the cost of survival mode. So as I was researching for this, I ran across some very interesting information. Now, I'm just going to put out a disclaimer there. I am an attorney. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a physician in any way, shape, or form, or anyone who is licensed to help you get through traumas, right? So when I'm talking to you from the information that I've found, and I'm also talking, or could be talking with you from what I've experienced in my own life, or some of the things that I've been able to overcome myself. So personal knowledge and experience, okay? But listen, here's one thing I want to share that I found about survival mode in people in the United States. There is a study that shows that more than a third, so that's about 38% of people, say they'll be living in survival mode. Now, this study was, I think, taken before 2021. But if you can imagine what that was coming off the back, and you don't even have to imagine. I mean, 2021 is after 2020. We already know what 2020 was. 2021, we were still living in the effects of COVID. And now in 2022, we have rising prices and everything. Inflation is crazy. People are still trying to find a balance in their life. And if there's anyone who's already been struggling in some respect, and let's just call it out, let's call it what it is, like especially with financial stress. If you've already been struggling with financial stress and you've been in survival mode with financial stress, imagine what is happening to people now with the rising cost of inflation, right? So I want you to also think about your childhood. Because as I talk about this subject today, what I want you to do is really figure out, is there something I need to break free from? Is there something I need to break free from? Because I do believe that a lot of the things we do are rooted in somewhat tradition, right? How we grew up, what we see being done around us, what our parents would do or say that we should do. And then also some part of that anxiousness that is also built up inside of us, right? Because we want to accomplish a certain thing, or we need to do a particular thing, we believe. And so sometimes that will put us into this bubble of survival mode, to the point that we could be good people and working really hard with our heads down and don't even recognize that we're in survival mode. We don't even recognize that we're in survival mode. Now, here is my opinion. This is not medically based, but here is my opinion as the protector of athletes. When you operate in survival mode, it turns off the joy of living. If everything is about surviving, it is impossible. In my mind, your mind might be different, but in my mind, it seemed like it's impossible to get to a place where you're really enjoying what you're doing and who you are around. Imagine being in a place, a beautiful place, a once in a lifetime place that you will probably never go to had it not been for some form of an opportunity. This is what I envision, right? So imagine you're in this beautiful place and you can't enjoy the place because your mind is on, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Oh, I can't forget I gotta check on this person. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Because you're so worried about what happens if it doesn't get done. And the question I ask is, are you operating in survival mode? I wrote an article a little while ago talking about being in the moment. I lived abroad for 3 months with my son. I didn't have my husband with me. He would come and visit and everything. But while I was there, some of the smallest moments, if I was in a state of survival mode, I would have missed it. If I was worried about every single thing that had to get done or how I felt about any little thing that probably went wrong in my life, or if I was worried about the next bill that needed to be paid, right? We have to be conscious around the things that are keeping us stuck into survival mode, which also keeps us from being able to live in the moment. There are all these small little moments that equal momentum in our lives that we don't really get to appreciate that until we have gotten to a place where we start seeing the culmination of all of those smaller moments. But I made a conscious decision to make sure that I stay in the moment, in this space, in that time with my child, seeing him blossom, seeing how he navigate through multiple cultural differences and language differences, environmental differences. Being in the moment is so important. One thing that happens with moments is that they are very fleeting. The same as opportunities. And if an opportunity meets a particular moment and you're stuck in survival mode, would you miss it? The answer is possibly yes. But here's something else that I was thinking about as I think on this professional woman's post. I started thinking about trauma, but not trauma in the aspect of someone has to do something so catastrophically horrible to you for it to be considered trauma. Not that kind of trauma, but the trauma that shows up in these little small buckets that just kind of, you ever heard the saying, poking a sleeping bear? That kind of trauma. The trauma that's just like poking at a person. It pulls a little bit off of a person, a little here and there. And you don't realize it because you dismiss it. Oh, well, it's not that bad. It's a small issue. That's not that bad. But the problem is every time you're poked with something, some form of an experience that is unpleasant to you, if it's not dealt with, they can become small traumas, which people call, or physicians call, micro traumas. Now, I really had to read up on this one, guys, because I also believe that there's something about living with trauma. And I don't want to discount people who go through massive things that really, really hit home with some real traumas that we can automatically call out. But it's the unspoken things, the things that kind of live under the surface that we really have to put a face on it, right? We have to put a name on it. We got to call it out. We got to call it for what it is, because that is the thing that's holding you back from your destiny. That's the thing that's also making you operate in survival mode. And if you don't deal with those things, one, those micro traumas can end up blowing up into this unattainable issue that now you're looking at yourself like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, how did I go wrong? Right? They can also be the thing that's holding you back from really truly living and appreciating life and appreciating the opportunities that come at your door. And this is so important because if you're a parent watching this or listening to this podcast, you got to check your own micro traumas too. The danger about these things is the fact that they're so subtle. Sometimes we feel like it's okay to kind of to say the things or to treat people the way that we have been treated as children, and we don't think that there's anything wrong with it. But if you are reconditioning your children, now the next generation, with those same micro traumas, what are you investing into their life? Because here are some of the dangers with the micro trauma issues, right? One, we see them as minor, so we sweep them under the rug. We'll ignore them or we'll deny them because we're like, no, that can't be. But they start stacking on top of themselves. And as they continue to stack, this is where we start seeing the real costly effect of the micro traumas. The individual will begin to have some form of psychological harm. They will see themselves less than, their value will be diminished. They will not know that they are worthy inside. We have to recognize our own behaviors, call it out as such, and also recognize where we get it from. As I read on this information, because I knew I wanted to talk about the cost of survival mode, but I also wanted to understand me. And I think we should always try to get an understanding about who we are and where we are in our lives, because that would be the key to unlock our future. So I started thinking about me as a young girl and growing up, and my brothers were boys, right? They did as boys did, and they would pick at me and they would say certain things about me. But now that I've grown up, I recognize a lot how that may have impacted me. The things that older adults would say, oh, they just playing. But it was something that little by little by little by little, it began to tick away at my self-worth. It began to tick away at my confidence. Here's another thing. When you know you've done something well and you performed so well, but someone, what is the terminology? Someone kind of belittles that, right? Or they backdoor your success. Or they make a mockery of you. And a big one in the workplace is microaggressions. You know you're doing something amazingly well, but you are being discriminated, or you could be discriminated against, and someone else gets the praise based on the work that you've done. Those little things, and whether you say, oh, it's okay, next time, it does something to your spirit, right? It builds up over time, over and over again. Those little micro traumas become issues that chip away at your confidence, at your self-worth. It begins to chip away at the way you see your entire self. And then it puts you in a place where now you are just one of those people just working with your head down. Confident people don't walk with their heads down. And in my opinion, that seems to be a telltale sign of whether you're operating in survival mode. So I want to tell you today, bro or sis, I want to tell you today, pick your head up and recognize, call it out, call it what it is. If you have experienced any form of microaggression, any belittling, any insulting or demeaning words and insults, anything that has diminished the respect that you should receive or pride, tell yourself how amazing you are. Tell yourself how amazing you are. Exclaim it to the world and recognize that you were being traumatized. Although it may not feel like this huge thing, and you may not feel like you have the license to say, oh, I've really dealt with these small little micro traumas. You absolutely may have. And it may be the thing that's holding you back from your destiny. But don't operate in survival mode. Do not operate in survival mode, because something is going to come around where there's going to be an amazing opportunity. And if you are too distracted because you're just trying to survive and not living, you are going to miss it. So hold your head up high. Tell yourself how amazing you are, because you are. Okay? And live life in the moment. All of those small moments are going to culminate at some place, and you should be present for it. Guys, I'm Sivonnia DeBarros, the protector of athletes. I always find it an honor to come here to talk with you, to educate you, motivate you, and support you to your very next level. If you have not subscribed to this podcast, make sure you go and find it on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. All right, guys, until next time, I will check you all later. Ciao.
This week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Sivonnia DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.